Choreographers. Good to see you all.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Michael Jackson birthday party. This is, as you all know, is what we call MJ Birthday Week, and we have two very special guests joining us, and we're really excited to help kick off. So my name is Melanie. I'm with the Michael Jackson Fans of New York and the MJ Justice Project, and my partner in crime and the co-host for today, the founder of the MJ Justice Project, is Buds.
Hey.
Say hey, Buds.
Hey.
Today we have fans from all over the globe. I was looking in the chat room. We have UK, we have Ireland, we have Philippines, Guatemala, we have New York. Yay, New York in the house. So
Argentina, Chile, Mexico. We got a good global family here. That's why we call it the global family.
That's right. We always have been.
Yeah.
So
we are the world.
Today we have three amazing special guests. Travis Payne, we'll talk to him in a second. John Muto and Pez Jax. And we're thrilled to begin with Travis. And I'm going to read this, Travis, because your credits are impressive, and I don't want to leave anything out.
Okay.
So I wrote them down.
And you know, probably so much of that stuff I deal with my lovely work wife, Stacy Walker.
And I'm going to introduce your work wife, too. Okay. Travis Payne is a multi-award winning choreographer, director, and producer. For over 20 years, he has created original choreography, and he's been the creative director for concert tours and theaters. Travis has worked with such global icons as, of course, Michael Jackson, Beyoncé, Lady Gaga, Madonna. There are many more. Travis is best known for his collaboration.
And Janet.
Yes. I was just getting to Michael and Janet Jackson for over 15 years, and including he was one of the co-producers on Michael Jackson's This Is It. To date, This Is It is the highest grossing documentary, a concert movie of all time. Hello, Travis, and welcome. We're so happy to have you with us. And
thank you.
And we have a very special guest joining you, is Stacy Walker.
Hi, everybody.
Another one of Michael's great collaborators. So we're going to get started, Travis and Stacy.
Right on.
Travis, I know you're from Atlanta. Can you talk about the first time you were introduced to the Jackson 5 and Michael as a child growing up in Atlanta?
Oh, very easy. I remember around 5 or 6 years old seeing the Jacksons because they had a Saturday morning cartoon.
That's right.
And they were animated. And of course, everybody knew who the Jacksons were, you know, the big hits, ABC, I Want You Back, everything. But it was when we started to see them in a cartoon and hear their voices and see their personalities outside of their musical performances that, you know, it was a done deal for me. And so growing up in Atlanta, Stacy and I both grew up in Atlanta. It was, you know, during that time, the big three were Michael Jackson, Prince, and Madonna.
Exactly.
Right. So it was like all or nothing. One of them was for everybody. They should have been a supergroup, actually. It would have been nice if they recorded together.
I know.
But my obsession and admiration for Michael and his family, his brothers first, and then later Janet, started for me early on. And I remember the first album I ever bought was Off the Wall.
Yeah.
And so, you know, getting to see the brothers and Michael on the Victory Tour, and then Triumph Tour, or Triumph and Victory, I'm not sure the order. And then, of course, then seeing Michael on the Bad Tour. And I was in high school. That's what sealed the deal for me. I saw Michael and his dancers on stage, and they looked like superheroes.
Yeah.
And for me, coming from the ballet and modern sort of technical world, I had never seen a mixture of athleticism and grace, masculinity, you know, superhero type of movement. And from that moment on, I'll never forget it. I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. And on the stage with Michael at that time was Lavelle Smith Jr., who would go on to be my longtime collaborator and actually was very instrumental in introducing me to both Janet and Michael in my late teens. So it was all of that. But the Jacksons, like for so many in my community, were like our America's first family. So they were like, you know, they were our version of the Osmonds, and everybody was so proud of them. And so to be able to, this many years later, be able to realize so many of those dreams, and of course being with Stacy as well, is just continues to be a blessing, and then gets us to do opportunities like this with you today.
Well, we're glad to have you. And I know of the Jacksons and Michael in particular were part of my childhood. So, and I always say the fabric of my life has always been with Jackson music. So I can relate to what you're saying there.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey. Of course, obviously, the tragedy in 2009 it has not gone away.
Nope.
You know, nor will it. But we cope a little better each day, certainly around this time of the year, when we get very reflective and we get very celebratory, and we reminisce about the good times. So I keep that kind of stuff at the front of my thought process.
As it should be, you know. Mm-hmm. And this week we're celebrating Michael's birthday, and we'll continue to celebrate. In October, we'll celebrate Thriller and Halloween and all of that stuff.
And
so
then we got to do Christmas. We got to do Christmas.
Christmas. I have my J5 Christmas album. Don't let me have to pull it out now. I got it.
You better. You better. I think little known fact that I find so sweet and awesome is Christmas. Many people think that Halloween was Michael's favorite holiday. I think he loves Halloween, or loved Halloween, but Christmas was his favorite holiday. And he used to, like, even at Carolwood during This Is It, there were Christmas decorations in June, in May.
I love that. I love that.
You know, he liked Christmas. And it was like, I suppose, the fantasy and the wonder and the, you know, and the innocence of it. It just is so on brand with him. So it was just a normal thing. You walk into Neverland, there was always wreaths. There was always, you know, what is that? Tinsel or whatever? Garlands everywhere. And, you know, there might be a Christmas tree. He liked Christmas. And a fireplace burning in the summer.
I love
just
that.
Because it's like Christmas.
I love that. And I'm sure the kids loved it too. So. So let's talk about your beginning of your collaboration with Michael. And I know it was Remember the Time and the Dangerous Tour. Are there any sort of behind the scenes about that creative process you can share with everybody today?
Sure. The way it kind of went, I haven't told a lot of people, some know, but I actually auditioned for the Dangerous Tour and did not get selected. And so as fate would have it, then came Remember the Time, and getting to work with Fatima Robinson and the dearly departed John Singleton, you know, Matt Johnson, Iman, Eddie Murphy, and others. That was really sort of my second audition. I got to sort of be in front of Michael for that and get to, you know, collaborate with him. And my little job was, because there were hip hop dancers and then there were jazz dancers from LA. The hip hop dancers at that time didn't really counts. They just feel it. So it might not look the same way each time. It might shift a count or two. And the dancers in LA really need counts, you know, to keep everyone in unison. So my job early on was to learn Fatima's choreography. Fatima and the Mop Tops were her crew, and put counts to it so that we can teach it to the LA dancers. And so that was my sort of first introduction. And I think that getting to be in that sort of position, dancing plus, gave me a little more exposure and a little more face time with Michael. And that was really the beginning of our collaborative relationship. And so when it came time for Randy Allaire to depart the Dangerous Tour, because he was opening a dance studio called the Edge Performing Arts Center here in LA, I was able to step in because I had the relationship, and of course every dancer in the world knew the choreography. So it was just timing. It was timing. And again, Lavelle, you know, sort of being that that go-between, you know, to connect me. Yeah, that liaison to connect me to, you know, both Janet and Michael in those early days.
So how was it going on tour with Michael and dealing with the fans and the press and everything that was going on, and sort of checking in and out of hotels and all of that? Talk to us about it.
I think that it was, I think those kind of experiences are what I was born for.
Go ahead.
Loved it. 5-star, I'll take it. Private travel, I'll take it. I don't have to touch my luggage. You sure? I'll take it.
I love that.
The day you left, you know, the day you were departing the city, you would just roll your bag outside the door at like 5:30 in the morning, and someone would magically pick it up and deliver it to your next hotel. It was so nice and easy and pleasant. Beautiful hotels, you know, well paid. You kind of felt like a rock star.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the beautiful thing was that everywhere we went, the fan community, and I call it the Michaelverse, always so welcoming, always so supportive. You know, just I think it sort of surpassed fandom. It became this spiritual connection that you could see, and it was tangible. You know, more than people standing outside of the hotel screaming, you could tell that people really loved him.
They cared.
Really cared. And were so happy that he was there, and he knew it. And oftentimes would, you know, come out on the balcony, or, you know, send things out, or just kind of participate. Like, Michael adored his fans. And so for us to feel that just by association, amazing. You know, to be able to walk the streets in a city and, you know, people may applaud when you walk into a shop, or I met families that were, you know, maybe in Argentina. I remember there was a beautiful hotel. Then we stayed in like an old town, and across the street was a family that hand makes sweaters. Very simple, but it was just the craftsmanship and the sort of pride in their work. So I got a couple of sweaters for my dad, and started talking to the father, talking to the mother, and they had 2 kids. And so I was able to give the parents tickets to bring the kids. So of course the parents in return, they made this whole dinner for the dancers, and it was just so loving, and that kind of community. You know, we got to have many, many places in the world, all because of my.
Yes. Let's talk about the creative process a little bit. I know you were one of Michael's major collaborators. Talk about how it was to collaborate with him to come up with the moves that are so iconic right now.
Well, I think that the thing is that every experience was different. There were certain things that were the same. Obviously, we take cues from the music, and we just start by listening. You know, many times in our process, we don't have the luxury of that kind of time. So in the same day, we're listening to the music, we're counting it out, we're starting to think of ideas, we're moving, we're recording stuff, we're trying to, you know, collect ideas. But with Michael, it was like slow roasted, you know, Sunday dinner. It was no microwaving. You know, it was every ingredient mattered, every, you know, process needed time, and he gave it that time. And I just know we'd start by listening to the music, we'd write down shapes or words or just things that the music is giving us. And then at that point, we'd stand up and start to create like modules or little sections, just feeling. And then we can say, oh, that one feels better here, that feels better here. We can move them around like, you know, puzzle pieces. And then we would sometimes, depending on how connected he felt to it, and you'd know, he'd get excited if it was good, or he'd kind of look down and he'd just kind of keep nodding if it's not there yet. So you just kind of keep going. And then he may say, all right, we're done for the day. And then we come back the next day, and we have those ideas from the previous day, but we'll start the whole process over again. So we might do that 2 or 3 times, and then look at it like a big sort of like map and pull pieces from each version to make the master version. So it was very strategic. It was very systematic. It was very mathematical. It's like science. And Michael would often refer to things as us crafting something, as opposed to making. We're crafting. because that takes an extra amount of care and preparation. So it was always a special thing, sometimes very difficult, sometimes very stressful, you know, especially if there were any type of schedule or budget to consider. But I think our most extensive process that we had together, other than This Is It, of course, was Ghosts, which from start to actual completion was 4 years.
And I think
So
Michael did some of his best dancing in Ghosts. So the fact
I
that
agree.
you two were collaborators for that is really impressive to me. Can you talk about Ghosts?
And actually, yes, and actually it was Stacy's first job, so I'll let her start this one, but it was great. It was a collaboration with Michael Jackson, Lavelle Smith Jr., Courtney Miller Jr., Barry Lather, and myself, and Richmond and Tony Talawega, who at that time were Lavelle and I's young assistant.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my very first job in Los Angeles. So wow. It was a really tough job. Travis and I were just talking about that. I think it was probably one of the hardest jobs in so many areas because the choreography was really difficult and intricate and weird. You know, it wasn't, you know, because we were monsters. It was just grungy and weird. And that was really hard for me because I'm always very cute. So, you know, like, because I used to dancing like a girl and being sexy or cute. And then to have to be ugly, it was like, I don't know how to do that.
Right.
So it was hard, but it was also hard in the sense that we wore very heavy, hot costumes. They would dust us down and spray us with cobwebs, which was actually, I believe, like hot glue guns with a fan behind it. So the hot glue would just kind of string all around you.
Hot glue.
I'm hearing that.
Yeah. I just remember like we had prosthetics for a lot of it. And so a lot of people's mouths were sewn shut throughout the day. They'd have to be cut open to eat lunch, you know, and then sewn back up. And, you know, it was pretty difficult and crazy, but to sum it all up, I think just on what Travis was talking about, I think the difference with Michael's process and a lot of other people's are he lets it evolve. There's a whole evolution. So it's not just, this is the music, this is how long it is, this is what needs to be done. It's sort of like, well, let's start with this music, but the music might even change. We might even add sounds, take away sounds, add a whole different piece over it. There's so much evolving in the process. Whereas oftentimes, like Travis mentioned, with other artists or jobs, you have a time frame. It's because it gets too expensive. You have a week to do this, so this is the music. This is, you know, you just make it happen much quicker. But I think that's the brilliance of Michael, having the ability to let things evolve. Even like Dangerous, and it never was finished from start. It just kept growing and growing and growing and changing and changing.
And I think too, to that point, the work lasts. You know, it's almost like you know, it's not the same, but it's similar to me. I love how something can happen in pop culture and right away there's a song that's on someone's album that's already done. So that means they waited until the 12th hour to make sure there was absolutely nothing else that needed to go on that album before it was pressed. And so sometimes it will hold a press or delay a press, you know, and I think that Michael did that with the short films because the technology was always changing. You know, that's the reason Ghost took 4 years, is because we started it and then he realized that the ideas that were in his head, it just was not possible to do yet because the technology didn't exist. So I believe that he just waited. I believe that he also helped with research and development of that new technology so that he could be the first to have access to it. And so it was that kind of commitment to the art that makes it so different and makes it last. You know, Ghost still looks great.
It looks amazing.
It does. And I feel like, and I would, and things that I didn't even work on, like Smooth Criminal, still look great. Thriller, still look great, you know, because they were innovative in their time and ahead of their time.
And we absolutely.
You know?
And we have a whole new generation of kids who are watching Michael's short films right now and emulating him and are doing the dance steps, Smooth Criminal and all of that. Thriller. You know, I saw online a 5-year-old had the dance steps of Thriller better than anyone I had seen in a long time. He was 5 years old. So
yeah, that's, we see a lot of very, very young children loving Michael. And it's so interesting. I think they love the fact that he's like such a character, and he's
a
so
superhero.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's so different looking, and you know, I
It's
think
like an action figure.
yeah, they gravitate towards that. But it is so amazing, actually, that and especially these young kids in foreign countries, you know, outside of the U.S. that don't even speak English are drawn to his sound, his music, his look, his dance. It's incredible.
So many of them met him 2009 and beyond.
Yes.
Right.
So
After
many.
he passed.
Yeah, we have some in the chat room with us right now.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. But it was
post
good.
2009.
Yeah, I mean, he was so special, so special. I think that beyond the sort of obvious reasons, but his attention to detail, the stuff he cared about, you know, he came from such an informed place when creating, and took into consideration all the things that were going on in the world, and really felt like his purpose here was to deliver these messages through his music that he has been doing. It wasn't a, you know, yes, I think he was grateful for his talent, but his talent was packaged these messages, which, you know, when I heard him say to me once, and it really put a lot in perspective for me. And this was in the This Is It process. So I thought I knew him, but when he said this, it completely gave me a completely different perspective. He said, my talent is being able to tap into my higher power.
Wow.
That's my talent.
Wow.
The messages, the ideas that come through me, I'm a vessel. My talent is I can connect to my higher power, which is God.
Yeah.
And I don't take credit for any of this stuff. That's why sometimes I forget the songs. I did that or did it, because it's not me. It comes through me. And I just allow, you know, I'm a vessel. That's my job. Right. And I said, wow, he's on some metaphysical, spiritual connection to his art more than I do.
Definitely on a different level, for sure, 100%. And I think that's why his music is so gets into your soul, and it's very because that spiritual edge of it, it just permeates your being, and that's why he's so loved everywhere. I truly believe that. And you were speaking about kids dancing. Also, you'll notice that kids who have autism and stuff, their parents will say, oh, he started listening to Michael and doing Billie Jean, and now he's talking. I mean, it's just like it goes into the brain. His music is very spiritual. He makes me just love the world, really.
God, that is the highest compliment you could pay him. But to your autism point, my business partner, Christopher Demers' sister, Jennifer, is challenged. She is this beautiful artist. She drew this wonderful, like, painting, this oil painting of Michael. And it's like, wow. That was just so special, you know, that speaks to his, you know, his impact, you know, it mattered to her that of all the things that she could focus on, you know, she chose to do this, and she did this beautiful, it hangs in my house, and like, wow. And she just signed it Jennifer, but it's beautiful, you know, so yeah, he's special.
And just this month, we had 2 students, both on the spectrum, that it's just changed their life. It's just been it's so cool to see. So cool to see.
All this is part of Michael's legacy, and I know Bud's had a question.
Okay.
She wanted to ask both of you, which ties into that. Bud?
Are you talking about the tour question?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Let me just get the little screenshot up so I don't mess it up. On Twitter, someone named Katie for a Day, she wrote, long story short, a recon prodigy posted this. Long story short, I was delayed in Iraq when Mike passed, rest in peace. And the Iraqi people loved Michael so much that they called a ceasefire for 24 hours to honor him. And he said, yeah, Michael Jackson's death stopped a war for 24 hours. And then you responded, the same thing happened during History World Tour when Michael performed in Israel. So, I mean, that's just an amazing, I just thought the thought of it just is amazing. So could you, explain what you meant and what happened?
Of course. Tel Aviv, Israel was one of the stops on the history tour. And there was so many things that was special about that, you know, about that location. I'd never been to Israel before that. It was disturbingly beautiful. Let me put it that way. So you see in Tel Aviv this architecture that's classic in its form, but it's got bullet holes in it. And you can see where war has ravaged parts of the city or parts of the region. Of course, we went to Jerusalem, the Wailing Wall, all of that. All of the proper sort of yarmulkes, entering places, the praying, all of that. We did all that. I even have a Bible with some of the red clay from Israel. But so astonishing to me was that was, I think, our biggest crowd. We had over 100,000 people in a field. So that is a sea of people. But unbeknownst to us, as we were leaving, we find that during those few days that Michael was in town, the East and West, or Upper and Lower Bank, I think it's East and West Bank, who had always been going back and forth with each other for centuries, nothing. Those people, those opposing factions, were at the concert together in that audience.
Wow.
And it was awesome.
Yeah.
So after we left, and you know, I was much younger then, so I wasn't so up on world events, but I remember it being front page news. It was a deal that Michael Jackson brought peace to Israel.
Wow.
For that period he was there. And I remember after This Is It, when we did So You Think You Could Dance for, I believe it was Turkey, but it was filmed in Israel. So I got to return there with two of Michael's dancers from This Is It, Daniel and Nick. And no, it was Daniel. I think it might have been Daniel only. No, it was Daniel and Nick. Yeah, because we were doing the peace tour. And we were able to return to Jerusalem and able to return to the hotel we stayed at, the beach, where you could see the upper sort of area of land. And on that field is where we did the concert. And it was just so, it was a really special moment, you know, very special, more special because Michael was there, but similar in feeling to the Philippines experience with the prisoners. You knew that it was a moment in time that you're just fortunate to be there for, you know. And so I thank him. I thank him. And a lot of times Michael would route his tour based on the conditions of the world, meaning he would not avoid, you know, difficult places. Obviously, if there's a war, we wouldn't go. You know, obviously, if there's too much drug cartel activity, we wouldn't go. But if there was a way that by his show coming into town, it could enrich the region, which means more work for the parents, which means fuller bellies for the kids, he would do it. And so we would wind up in these sort of random places, but they made sense to him in a bigger picture, because once he left that region, the region was better for it. So that kind of selflessness combined with his, you know, genius talent was just so unique.
Right.
I want to make sure we get in the project the two of you are working on for Michael's birthday. Can you describe that and tell how fans can get involved?
MJB Day 2020.
Yes.
Yeah. Basically, we're going to be teaching They Don't Really Care About Us 2020. So
new version.
It's the original, but we put in some really funky new moments. Because if you remember that number, there's quite a bit of marching. And so we, you know, broke that up and added in some more choreography. So if you like to dance or anyone you know likes to dance, we'd love for you to join us. It's going to be this Saturday night at 6 p.m. Los Angeles time, Pacific Standard Time. And then again at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning, again, the 30th, that's Los Angeles time. So it should work with many different countries' time zones. You'll just have to check it out. But you can go to either one of our Facebooks or Instagrams or our joint, The Real Travis and Stacy, and click on the link and get more information. And after the class, we're also going to have a chat where we're going to answer a lot of questions from the fans, as well as have a couple guests join us. So
There we
yeah,
go.
that's
You go.
this Saturday and Sunday in honor of Michael's birthday. So it'll be really fun, and it's really friendly. Even if you're not a dancer, it's something you might really enjoy watching and seeing. And it'll probably be about a 2-hour event.
And it'll be on Tixer, Tixr is the platform we're doing this time, and it should be a lot of fun. We're on there too with like big pop stars doing concerts and stuff. So there's a new platform we're really excited to partner with for this. Which we call Michael season. So between June and really all the way to October, it's his time every year. So we like to reach out, be in the Michaelverse, participate, see you, interchange, interact with you, communicate, whatever we can do, just to keep his legacy alive and to keep the great ideas flowing and to introduce even more young dancers and musicians to this great work.
Great. I know the estate is working with Spike Lee on a project for Michael's birthday. So this is perfect to have your project and this project. We can Michaeling, we call it Michaeling all week long.
We should be Michaeling. I think the world needs more Michaeling.
I agree. I agree. I have a question for you from one of the fans. Her name is Raphael. She wants to know, what is the most important lesson you learned from Michael? And you both can answer if you would like. What's the most important thing Michael sort of left you with?
Professionally or like personally?
Whatever you feel comfortable. Yeah.
I mean, I think professionally, one of his main things was, why change it if it's not broken? And that was, there's two things I want to say about that, because he was really smart about that. He, sometimes we'd want to change things and twist and turn, make it new, kind of how Madonna would do with Vogue. She would do different incarnations of it. Michael never found that to be very necessary, which I learned to really appreciate. And also, I thought he was very smart in the sense of making a lot of his chorus choreography very user-friendly, I'll say. Simple enough for people to be able to follow and emulate. Like Thriller, it's not very hard, right? Anybody could kind of follow along and do it. Now, a lot of the other choreography could be quite intricate, but yes,
there you go.
He was really smart to always make the choruses pretty user-friendly so people could enjoy and dance along. So those are two professional things that that he taught both of us.
And I see AC had a quick question. Hey, AC. So I'm going to answer that, which plays into your question, Melanie. I think one of the most valuable things he said to me was kill them with kindness. Whenever, it kind of is like two wrongs don't make a right, or, we go low, they go low, we go high. It's the same sort of sphere, same sort of message. I think that also means that the more successful you become, the nicer and the more pleasant it's incumbent upon you to be, because for a lot of people, they only come with love. So if you don't receive that, what are you putting out there? So I think that even when I would say to him, doesn't it piss you off when people talk crazy about you? Don't you get mad when you see stupid things in the news? Doesn't it? And he says, no, we just pray for them. I think we just got to pray for them, And I was like, but that makes me so mad. He was like, that doesn't do anything. We just have to pray for them. They don't know that. So like, whoa, how do you even do that? I don't think that most people go there first. The quickest route is frustration, anger, but that wasn't his nature. And he said, just kill them with kindness. They'll get it someday. They'll understand, and then, so it's like I see that too with some artists that I've worked with who are not nearly as famous or as prolific as Michael, who are just terrors to be around. And it's not inviting, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help the way you feel, and it certainly doesn't help the work. So if everybody's pleasant, not fake, but if everybody's pleasant and you hear them, you know, you're sensitive to people's emotions. You try to meet them where they are every day, you know, and not be too judgmental, I think, is really what he was trying to say. Kill them with kindness. You know,
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. There's been a lot of chatter, that's what I call it, about Michael in the last 2 years. And the fan community is very upset about some of it. But you two knew the man. Mm-hmm. So can you talk about his integrity and the man he really was? Because a lot of this chatter we don't believe, and you guys know the truth. So who was Michael Jackson?
Well, I think that you're all very aware of who Michael was. Just listen to his songs, you know, and listen to and read his poetry. You know his heart. You do. So I think, and I tell myself this too, you know, we go with instincts. You know, we're humans. So if you're around a person and something doesn't feel right, it don't feel right. Mm-hmm. You know, no matter who it is. You know, but with Michael, there was never a malicious situation. There was never ill intent. He was the kindest person. And I would also say to him, sometimes to a fault, some people mistake your kindness for weakness. Mm-hmm. And that'd be another, well, we got to pray for him, we got to pray kind of thing. But I'm just hard. But no, so sweet, so genuine, so caring, and just so prophetic. Mm-hmm. I felt like he was prophetic. I feel like he was ordained and he was very special in that sense of the word. And I think that his sort of love for humanity, you know, really got misunderstood by a lot of people because he wasn't a boastful man. And much of his philanthropy was done without any fanfare or acclaim. And so people don't know that. They just know sort of much of what's been manufactured by, you know, naysayers, which is unfortunate.
I remember one cute moment on the history tour that'll just kind of show his personality. He stopped the whole show because there was a bug on the stage, and the security guard had to come out. I don't remember what country it was, but had to come out and pick the bug up and take it off so it didn't get smushed. And then we went on with the show. So, you know.
That tells you a lot right there. Yes.
Right. It just kind of sums it up. Yep.
There was someone else who said that he was meeting the Pope and they were waiting with him outside in some chamber and there was a fly buzzing around and the person killed the fly and Michael started to cry and said, why did you kill that fly? He was just living his life.
Right. I mean, let me tell you, you'd be surprised. You know, we grew up knowing about Ben, you know, and all that. Mm-hmm. We knew Ben. He was cute on the record.
Yeah, a little rat, yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. And they made it cute, right? So we live in LA. It's lots of forests, coyotes, and things like that. So you might see a critter. You may see a rodent.
Yeah.
And I saw one, and my instinct was, oh, exterminator, pest control, decon, whatever you're going to do, a little trap, whatever. I bought it. I have still not put it out because every time I think about it, I think about Ben. I'm like, Michael would not want me to
get Ben. Yeah.
You know, he would be so upset if I messed up Ben.
Yeah.
So, you know, Ben is living his life and having a good old time back in my eye.
I just wish Ben didn't visit. That's it.
And I'm like, you know, Ben, now, I hope you, Ben, now, don't start, you know, having
don't start no mess. That's right.
Ben, but you, a single bachelor, all right, we can do it. We can do it for now.
I have one.
He had rats too, didn't he? Have rats when he was a kid. He had.
He did.
For a pet. It
so
would never occur to me.
Yeah.
You know, but that spoke to it. Like he found snakes and mice and chimps adorable.
Yeah.
That's
so funny.
That's special. Yeah.
So I have one last question because I know we're running out of time and we want you to come back, especially if you have another project. So this question is from Samantha and one of the fans. She wants
Okay.
to know what it's like to work with Michael on the comeback of This Is It.
Ooh, so exciting, obviously, until, you know, the tragedy. But I think that everybody was so excited. The world was so excited. And it was almost like, it reminded me of, you know, back in the Dangerous era, when it's like that kind of excitement as a fan,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, wow, you know, and just to be asked back and to participate as a director this time and get to have Stacy and Tony and Brahim and the team we got to have, and to find these new dancers from all over the world, and, you know, all of the technology we had, all of the, you know, ideas that were flowing, you know, and then Michael's real passion to want this show to be not only entertaining, but educating, you know, and informative and inspiring. Because as we see now, some of the messages that were planned for 2009 are so relevant today. That's why we're doing They Don't Care About Us on the 30th,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but people are now, as you hear woke, I think people throw that around too much right now. But Michael been woke for a long time. He's been woke for decades, and people didn't get it. People didn't understand wokeness and his level of wokeness. Not you know, not in a racist way,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or anti-Semitic way, just truth, you know, and like, wow, look at how these people have been oppressed because of this, you know, no matter who you are. It's socioeconomic, it ranged, it was bigger than skin color.
Sure.
You know, so, you know, to get to return for This Is It with all of that knowledge and that sort of, you know, wealth of experience on his part, and really be able to say something now that the whole world would see almost simultaneously, you know, because of course we weren't going to let people film the show, but there'd be clips, there'd be, you know, we have the social media now. We didn't have that
Sure.
for Free and Dangerous. There was not the immediacy. I'm seeing things on YouTube that we did 20 years ago that I've never seen.
Right, exactly.
Me too.
You know, stuff is showing up, you know, so to get ready to mount This Is It in this era meant so much, because that was so many people that were now going to be not only introduced to his music and his messages, but see his triumphant return, you know, be able to see a full circle moment for him in his career, you know, which fortunately, you know, was cut short. But what we were left with was, you know, so much information, the music, the short films,
Can
you know,
I ask you something?
our humble attempt at piecing together what the last creative process was in the documentary.
Right. Can I
But,
ask you a question about the? A lot of fans worry that Michael didn't know how much he was loved. When you were working with him on This Is It, did he realize just what an impact he had on the world and how much he was loved?
I really don't.
But I will tell you, and we only have a couple minutes, but I will tell you the sweetest story. It happened on This Is It. It's one of my favorite memories. One night, for some reason, Michael and I were kind of the last to leave rehearsal. And earlier that day, a friend of mine who's also a Michael fan had texted me something. And what he did was you know, when you ask your phone, you know, Suri, who is the world's greatest entertainer? Well, the answer was Michael Jackson is the world's greatest entertainer because blah, 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 blah. So that night I said, Michael, I was nervous. I was like, I just want to show you something. I felt like I needed to show it to him. And I said, you know, my friend is a big fan, and he asked his phone who the world's greatest entertainer is. And I showed him, and he just giggled and was tickled. It was like, so in awe. And I am so happy that I got to show him that, because maybe he didn't realize how much everybody loved him, but that was a big one. Like, that was pretty cool, you know, and it's a great lesson for all of us to, hey, if you see that someone looks nice, tell them. If you see that someone's doing a great job, let them know. Like, it means the world to people to feel loved and appreciated. That's what we all need.
Yes.
And so that's like one of my most special memories of him.
Yeah. So I make that to me, that says give flowers instead of sending flowers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Give 'em now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
give
agree.
flowers while you can.
Yes. I
Or you
agree.
have
Exactly.
Well, we want to thank both of you. We want to thank you certainly for joining us today, but we want to thank you for everything you do for Michael. And you two are such great advocates and defenders. And it just warms my heart that the two of you are out there doing what you're doing. So thank you. And come
Thank
back
you
and see us
much.
again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you so much for
Bye,
coming.
everybody. You guys
Appreciate it
take care.
so
Thank
much.
you, Melanie, and thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate you both. You're awesome, and we'll see you very, very soon. Like, keep us in mind for your next things. And
You got it.
know, what works for you, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your event and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Hopefully we can see you over there on Tixer.
Yes.
On the
Oh,
29th
yeah,
or the
I'm going.
30th.
Come dance with us
Come
Saturday
dance
and
with us.
Sunday. Okay.
That'll
And
be
we also
fun.
got these limited edition personally autographed hoodies
Oh,
that we are making available on the Tixer site as well. So
okay.
hopefully
We'll be there.
it's for you.
All right.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank
she
you.
got it.
Oh, here's the t-shirt. Oh,
There's the
yeah.
autograph.
That's
Oh,
wonderful.
nice.
And then the hood is so cute. It says "with love."
I love this. I need one of these. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Because I learned they don't really care about us.
Got it.
So yeah, so join us Saturday
We
and
will.
Sunday.
Thank you
And you
both.
stay healthy and happy.
Thank
You
you.
too. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Heal the world. It's our turn.
Exactly.
Okay, bye now.
Well, that was amazing, was it not?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I liked what he said about, the messages that he sent out to the world. And I think he appealed to the masses because he came from that level of compassion that he wanted to see everybody have for one another. And I think that the more we exemplify and we be that example of that kind of compassion, that level of compassion, it really can heal the world on so many levels. It really can.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Bud, I think our second guest is there, if you want to introduce him.
He is. He has come in. He's waiting. And since Travis had to leave early, it's perfect timing on John's part. Let's get him unmuted, and get him. Where he is. Okay.
There's John. Hey, John.
Is that him?
Hello.
There he is.
I want to first thank you guys for allowing me to come in and speak on behalf of HealLA. Super excited when I can always talk to Michael Jackson fans, because sometimes when I tell my story, people look at me like I'm a little crazy.
No, there's no crazy here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we all share the deep passion of Michael's legacy. I'm honored to continue it on his humanitarian side. I never take it for granted with my work with Prince and how it got started. But not sure it'd be helpful, but I'll tell the backstory of how HealLA got started. It's sincerely one of my favorite stories of all time. But growing up, I was like 4 or 5, being a huge Michael Jackson fan, and I think it was VH1. Is it maybe VH1 or MTV? But anyway, it was the homegrown videos. And being a super fan, you love seeing the music part and all that, the dancing. But then it got to that segment where it was going into his own house, and then after that, it was going to his Heal the World Foundation. And that, for me, was my big, quote unquote, lucky moment, because the log jam cleared, and it was like, all right, I'm going to do, well, one, I wanted to work for his foundation as a kid, but then if not, I was going to do something that, helped out people, whether it be a doctor, police officer, fireman, et cetera, et cetera. But always wanted to work for the foundation. That was my number one thing. But, grew older, still a huge Michael Jackson fan. And then, you know, when his passing, I think a year or two later, the foundation closed. And I think I was a sophomore in high school. And I remember junior year, especially senior year of high school, just like looking to see if like the estate was going to bring it back or anything like that. But it was at that point, you know, not going to come back at all. So, life went on, and, you know, still a huge Michael fan, but I was attending LMU. I was transferred in my sophomore year. And, I'm looking on Twitter. I think LMU, they retweeted Prince's tweet mid-year in of like, hey, like, I'm coming to LMU, or he was already here actually, but it was an old tweet. And then I was like, you know what? I gotta find him. I gotta find him. So at LMU, there's this long pathway that's super dark at nighttime. It's like a private school. And I was like, and I was walking, and I was like, I think that's him. So I hid behind the bushes just to see if it was actually him. And then as he got closer, it was him, because you recognize the face, the hair, et cetera, et cetera. And he was walking with this girl. And I literally popped out of the bushes and was just like, oh my God, like, you're Michael Jackson's son, I was being a typical fan, and I think the point where I got to was like, I talked about music very brief. I remember that because I didn't want to talk about all the music stuff because he already knows all that. But I was just like, man, like, your dad has like changed my life of, doing something in nonprofit. And at the time, and still am, I was working for the Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation. So we're the official charity of the LA Dodgers. And I love baseball, love Michael. So my true passion of giving back was there. But then I was talking to him about his dad's legacy of the humanitarian side. I was like, hey, I would love to start a student org here at LMU called Heal Los Angeles. And he was super down to earth. I mean, you guys all know, like, you guys have a celebrity that you want to meet, and you always imagine, like, how are they going to react? And the way he reacted was the most perfect way. I can't really explain it, but super humbling, super nice. And he had more than enough time to talk to me, which was awesome. But he was very honest. He was like, look, man, this sounds great, because I was pitching him the idea at the moment about HealLA, but he goes, you gotta have something on paper. So I went back to my dorm, typed out something real nice and just giving out the big general flow, put in a nice envelope that you usually see if you turn in an essay. And then I was like, you know what, I'll put it in my backpack to see if I see him the next day. Boom, saw him the next day, gave it to him. He kind of looked shocked and a little like, you must be crazy, look, like, this is pretty fast. And then that was during midterm, so we're in November at this point. So early November. And then, November went by, then December we all go home for Christmas break. And I was thinking at the time, like, you know what, like, if this does happen, I'm not going to get too excited, but if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to get too down on myself. But literally the first day we got back from Christmas break, I get a text. And it was like, hey, man, this is Prince. Like, I love what we're trying to do. Let's get started. And I was like mind blown. Because I'm like, I'm not even thinking I'm going to get a text from Prince. I think at least it was going to be an email at least, or at least in person, like, hey, let's get this started. But like, man, it was like most exciting moment in my life, because I remember being in that moment saying, oh my God, Prince Jackson's texting me, So we got HealLA started, I'm not sure if you guys follow us on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. Please give us a follow. But yeah, we did so many amazing things I was super proud of. We had this thing called the Peanut Butter Project, and something that, I think was not hard for people to understand, but to know the difference. When you're student org, yes, you got to raise money, you got to do events, but the key aspect is you have a group of members that are in there, you know? So we try to run as a nonprofit, even though we weren't a nonprofit at the time, but it was hard just finding ways to get everyone engaged in what we're trying to do. So we have peanut butter projects where in our meetings, we make peanut butter jelly sandwiches, Ziploc them, and then I'm telling you, we actually went to like the sketchy, low, homeless areas in Skid Row, Venice Beach, and we actually gave them out because there was other student orgs at LMU, and nothing to downgrade them, but it was like, you know, we wanted to be in the work since our mission at the time was to end LA homelessness, LA hunger, and child abuse. So we did that. Our Christmas event at Boys and Girls Club were always amazing. Thank you for you guys for always donating to. I know it was, you know, that's how we had to operate as a student organization. And then at our time, it was super impressive. We raised in our total of 3 years was $175,000.
Wow.
And, truly amazing. Just like you know, literally it just all went back out. That was the cool thing. I think people got to see like their money literally the next month or two, it was going directly to events. So it wasn't like, you know, there was no point of us keeping it, you know, obviously, because we were just a student org. So, yeah, just super excited, man. But I graduated because I'm a year older than Prince. I graduated, and when Prince was a senior, we were still doing HealLA, and that was the last year of it as being a student org. And you know, we never had really a conversation like what's the chapter after, you know. And then that
was going to be one of my questions to you. Since you started as a student organization, how have you morphed into a regular nonprofit?
Yeah, so 6 months before Prince's graduation, we talked at one of our meetings, and he was like, "Yo, man, like let's make this into a nonprofit." And like I said, I'm still doing my work with the LA Dodgers Foundation, and I was just like, yeah, let's do it. This was my dream. So, we hired the best nonprofit lawyers to help us out to transition to get our 501c3. Anybody that has a nonprofit, I think you guys know the paperwork that goes into that. So that was very rigorous. But super exciting. We worked with the lawyers, but during that time too, we were thinking about, hey man, like, what do you think about our mission being changed? Because, do we want to keep the same mission as a student org? And, Prince and I talked about it, had a lot of different conversations, but at the end of the day, we realized how important our education was and the experience that we received. And, a lot of going into it, but down the road, we really want to open up a Michael Jackson Children's Center in Los Angeles. The best way I can explain that is like, I'm sure you guys know about LeBron James and his I Promise school that he built in Akron, Ohio.
Yes.
It's a combination of that and like a Boys and Girls Club, but it'd be strictly after school. So, that kind of built into our mission of like, okay, we want to give access to inner city kids in Los Angeles, a quality of life, to live a healthy quality life by living a healthy, active lifestyle while also earning an education. So the best way we thought about it was, we got to have direct programming if we want to open this Michael Jackson Children's Center. So right now, until we build the center, it's a trial and error. So we're having programs going on. The first one was supposed to launch this past spring, and it was going to be our cooking classes at a school in East Los Angeles in Boyle Heights. And it didn't happen, obviously, due to COVID, but we're really excited about to launch our cooking classes that people are going to do from home. And I can't share anything right now, but we're going to be, promoting it on HealLA. You get to see all the experience that these families are able to receive in these family food boxes. But we're starting with that. We're looking into next year having a music class, financial literacy, but pretty much we want to add a program each year so that, you know, we know what works and what doesn't work for the center. But baby steps right now. So I'm like really excited to get this going. You know, obviously, you know, you guys know we have the Thriller Night event during Halloween. I mean, during Halloween. Sad to say that, you know, that event won't happen, obviously due to COVID. But you know, we're even thinking about using Havenhurst as a center at the moment of bringing kids in, having, you know, homework help on the weekends, having a music class in the studio. We're thinking about building a vegetable garden in the backyard of Havenhurst. So, you know, we're definitely trying to utilize the resources that Princess has in a good way. And I told him in the beginning, you know, we have to create a relationship with the estate to move forward in everything that we do, you know, because, you know, for example, Havenhurst is a great example that's owned by the estate, you know, but there's certain things that, you know, we can do there, and there's certain things that we can't do there. But I think just building that relationship has been super awesome. Obviously, they were the presenting sponsor at last year's Halloween event. So, you know, it was great to have their logo on the step and repeat, the bag that it's got, you know. So I'm super excited about the future of Heal Los Angeles. It's actually the Heal Los Angeles Foundation now, since we're a nonprofit. But yeah, I mean, man, you know, just being at Havenhurst, and, you know, Prince and I have discussions of having events at Neverland in the future. Like, that's just all for me exciting. And
that'll make fans very happy if you could do that.
Yeah,
pull that off.
I feel you guys. I see the comments. You know, I read all the DMs that you guys send me, whether it's, you know, something that we're not doing right or something that we're being praised for. You know, we all take that very seriously. So we never dodge the negative critics at all. You know, we're always open to hearing your guys' feedback. And another important thing that I told Prince is, like, man, we got to build relationships with these MJ fan clubs, because they're the ones that are going to be supporting us. You know, I think the elephant in the room is, you know, I think our fans, MJ fans, there's more outside the U.S., sadly to say. I could be wrong, but from all of our donors, you know, we have some in the States, but a lot from other countries, and, you know, we're all for it, obviously. So, you know, we appreciate each donor. But yeah, truly appreciate it. And I think that, you know, sorry if I'm just going on a tangent here, but
no, you're doing great.
I have a little bit of a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. When Prince was interviewed on Extra by Mario Lopez, he said, we took from Heal the World and we called it HealLA because we needed to start locally. And hopefully it will spread out. Now, I know you're focused in the beginning on the local stuff, but do you have plans for world chapters, or, I mean, you're just starting with baby steps here in LA?
Yeah, no, most definitely baby steps. I think we definitely want to, like, build our ground here, leave our, you know, presence here in Los Angeles first, since we're here in Los Angeles, get that center up and running. But, you know, Prince, you know, I remember too, these long drives when we went to Calabasas, he's like, what's your vision of, like, taking this to the next level? And to me, I'm thinking, what's next level here? Another event? Or he goes, no, like, taking this worldwide. And I go, man, truth be told, I would love to get there, but I haven't, you know, because we're still trying to figure out how, you know, we can make Los Angeles the greatest city, and saving it almost. And he's like, oh, just keep that in mind, though. And I go, okay, can you explain more of that? He goes, yeah. He goes, you know, eventually, you know, there could be like a Heal Houston, Heal New York. If we want to now go to another country, and then from there make it global, you know, that would be the goal. I wouldn't say, though, like, we would ever rename it like Heal the World Foundation, because I think there's a little, like, what's the word? Can't really think of it, but I think the estate and all that, and having yeah, being it already was a nonprofit, so I don't know how that would work with the IRS and everything, but, I think to that point was, we'll get that point when we get to that point, but I think it's just so cool that Prince sees this as long term, and
Well, I don't think you would have any problem finding people to help you do statewide organizations and even worldwide, because he has a lot of fans your age that are
Yeah.
young people are finding his music and they're loving him a lot, and they're understanding where it came from, and that there was a spiritual message and love and brotherhood and unity and all those things that he taught.
Right.
So I don't think you'd have much trouble really getting people to help you out and doing that. But
I'll volunteer right here.
I'm here right now.
Yeah, no,
Here in New York.
I totally believe you guys. I've worked with other MJ fan clubs before. Man, their dedication to it is it's extremely mind blowing, and I'm super impressed by it. So I always tell Prince, like, hey, we gotta utilize the MJ fan club, MJ fans. One thing that we're excited for, and I'd be, happy to send you guys all these emails if Melanie can send me, or someone else can send me your contacts. But we're looking to start our Heal Los Angeles ambassador program. You don't have to be in Los Angeles or in the States to be an ambassador. It's more of like, marketing HealLA, spreading the word of the work that we're doing. So we're building that out right now, but we're expected to have, I think, 10 ambassadors. So Prince and I will be interviewing them to see what their dedication looks like for this ambassador program. Obviously, it's not like a full-time job, so we understand people have other things going on, but it will take some sort of level of hours to be an ambassador. So I'm happy to share that once that goes out.
That's really good. That's really the way to go. I
like that too. Yes.
Yeah, that's good. That's amazing.
Yeah, most definitely.
So currently you're doing the grab and go at the Gospel Mission Baptist Church in South LA on a daily basis, right?
Yes. So once again, utilizing Prince's great resources, he knew a company that knew another company called Fresh and Lean. And, once COVID-19 hit, we were like, okay, like what are, families going to be doing for food if, a lot of people are getting laid off? Obviously unemployment helps out a lot of people, but that can only last for so many weeks. So we were first thinking about, all right, do we find a way that like only a certain amount of families can get like a delivery service that we would pay for? But then, we got in contact with Fresh and Lean, and our board member, his name is Raymond Dennis. He is the pastor at the Gospel Mission Baptist Church. So, and we've done, past events with them, like our turkey giveaway, but we really needed to find a location that can host it, that can store food there, because they Fresh and Lean can only do once a week deliveries. And our board member Ray, he was like, oh dude, like just if you give us the food, we'll find the way. So talked to Fresh and Lean, they were super open about it. And then they're giving us 1,500 meals each week. So they make a delivery each Friday. And yeah, the people in that community, it's South Central Los Angeles, they come Monday through Friday. We start at 11 a.m. and around 12:30, just depending on how the flow goes. But that's been a huge resource. I'm happy to say that we're going to have a second location for our grab and go meals. It's going to be in East Los Angeles. We're going to start mid-September because the church that we're working with, they need a little bit more time to get everything situated. But we're super excited because COVID-19, it's been a big hit. It's going to continue to be a big hit to every family. So eventually we want to go to East LA. We want to go near Venice. We want to go in Inglewood, Compton. But we just got to work with the resources that we got. And then the second thing that we've done in our COVID-19 relief is our sorry if I'm jumping ahead here.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
is our Japanese bento boxes, because another board member that we have, her name is Valerie Archer. She's the head chef at Yamashiro Hollywood, and like all the Hollywood celebrities go there. It's beautiful. If you guys ever come to Los Angeles, go over there because it's just amazing, amazing view, amazing food. But she came up to us, said, "Hey, Chris and John, like, you know, her sister's in the healthcare worker, and COVID-19 is just, you know, like I said, just been awful for everybody." And she was saying that we can do drop off bento boxes to a hospital. So we've been doing that each week. So at first we started with one hospital for 1 month, and we were doing it for 3 days a week, each week. But then, you know, we're like, you know, I think it's time to like spread the love. So after that first month, we're like, you know what, we're going to do 3 drop-offs at that same hospital for that week. So each week's the new hospital. We have a Google form. If you know a hospital in Los Angeles that deserves these Japanese bento boxes, please, you know, fill out that form. You don't have to know anyone at that hospital. Even if you've just heard great work of that hospital, just, you know, put that nomination in. But yeah, it's been great reading everyone's story. It's been great in like knowing that these bento boxes are going somewhere that they really deserve to go to. But, you know, the stories are heartbreaking of like hearing the nurses and the
You're
doctors.
doing really good work. You're doing such great work with your charity. I know that Michael would be so proud of both of you that you got together and you did this, because it's just exactly what he wanted to help the needy and help people who are underserved and like who are just homeless and in trouble. So it's right up his alley. It's just beautiful. I really, that's why we try to really retweet you and get your
message out there. Yeah,
following up a little bit. You need to get, you know, more followers, and
right.
Yeah, really.
I appreciate it. I always appreciate the likes and the retweets, or, you know, everything helps, you know, to get the word out. You know, so thank you very much.
And I also think the work you're doing is part of Michael's legacy.
Yes.
And
sure.
he started with Heal the World, but it's a natural transition to HealLA and hopefully move out to other cities across the globe. So that is the legacy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm telling you, I have a meeting each week at Prince's house, and every time I go to the house, I pinch myself thinking, man, I'm going into Prince Jackson's house here, man. Like, that's just like, I can't even tell you. I mean, I never take it for granted. That's why I never, you know, any MJ fans that DM us, or, you know, like I said, critics, non-critics, feedback, like, I listen to it because, you know, you guys are the experts, and, you know, we're all trying to leave Michael's legacy here to continue on for the younger ages. But no, I like I said, I pinch myself. I'm telling you, if you guys ever go to Havenhurst, what a mind-blowing experience, man. Like, I'm telling you.
I'm sure, yes.
My favorite event is the Halloween. We have 2 nights, well, 3 nights actually. The celebrity night, Bee Gees party, and then we have the kids event. But man, I'm telling you, that third event is it's just crazy. The kids come out of the bus, and they walk into Havenhurst, and, you know, it's all decorated, everything's free, and they're just like, they know Michael Jackson too. Yeah. That's the crazy part. They're like, this is where, you know, it's awesome to hear, but also like sad to hear. They're like, there's kids, you know, they know about Michael Jackson, but maybe they're too young to know about, you know, death. Mm-hmm. And they're like, where's Michael Jackson? You know, right. And that always breaks my heart. And I'm just like, you know, who, like, do they know about death? Do they not know about death? You know, but it's just like, they know who he is. And like, once they're there, they're just like, you know, they ask all the questions like, where's Michael's room? And, you know, all that. But I don't go into that details, but, you know, I show them the JCI room. We show them the recording studio where he recorded a little bit of Off the Wall and Thriller in there. But yeah, no, I can't even imagine when I first go to Neverland, whenever that happens. But man, I'm looking forward to, you know, you know, another thing too is like you know, everything that has gone on with Michael and the whole HBO thing. I don't want to talk too much about it, but you know, it's like those kind of events, I think, can help even his legacy even more of recovering it, because it's just like, you know, it's frustrating to see everything. You know, we all see it on, you know, social media, people
Sure.
commenting on that stuff. And, you know, Taj, you know, I always like his stuff because he's always finding up for his uncle, you know. So, you know, I don't do too much of that on social media. I try to do that with my work with Heal Los Angeles. And I'm hoping, you know, that, you know, when we do have an event at Neverland, kids and families are coming through. It's, you know, they're going to see the real Michael Jackson legacy.
Yes, they will come. Build
Yeah,
it.
no,
They will come.
I'm
For
looking
sure.
forward to it. But those are the moments that, you know, I never take for granted. And, you know, I'm always thinking how fortunate I am to be in the position that I am to work with Prince. Because I always tell my friends and family, like, the best example I give is like, if we had kids now, and I told you, you know, my kids is going to be best friends with, like, say, Kim Kardashian's kids. Like, you would never think that. You know, I saw Prince, I saw Paris on TV when I was, you know, I'm pretty much the same age, and not in a million years I ever thought I'd get to meet him or, you know, let alone work with him. You know, it's truly.
I truly believe God puts people together for a reason.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is just going to go on, and the generation of fans is going to keep coming. So it can feed his legacy and also his charities, as you and son are doing, and it's just really wonderful. We really appreciate you coming.
Oh,
and
yeah,
sharing everything with us.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
So John, we want you to come back when you have other projects you want to spread the news within the fan community. And
Yes.
we're here for you. So
I appreciate that. Do you mind if I share one more thing?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I think everyone may know, and once again, I can share this information to you guys via email, but right now we're selling, or, you know, trying to get donations for a limited edition HealLA lyric t-shirts. So the way it looked is on the front, you'll have the HealLA logo, and then on the bottom left of the shirt, it's going to be a little patch, and it's going to say your number that you bought out of 160 with Prince's autograph on it.
Mm-hmm.
And on the back, it's going to have one of the lyrics to one of the 4 songs, which is Heal the World, We Are the World, Man in the Mirror, and Earth Song.
Wow.
I totally know, and, you know, totally understand. I get a lot of emails like, it's too much. And I you know, during this kind of a time, I totally understand, you know. But you know, like I said, this money is all going to our COVID-19 relief with our grab and go meals, 2 locations, and our bento boxes. And then it's also going to go to our upcoming programming that we're going to be launching hopefully by the end of September. But yeah, if you guys can, you know, I always tell fans that always DM me, like, I can't pay for one, but how can I help? I always just say, you know, post it on your social media, you know, text 3 people from your last text message, like literally little stuff like that. So, you know, like I said, it's limited edition to 160. We're going to have another virtual fundraising campaign, I think in mid-September. And I think everyone can definitely participate because it's almost going to be a raffle. And the raffle prizes, there's more than one prize. It's insane.
Okay.
I can't share that right now because it's not official yet.
Well, this is why we're going to have you back to talk about it in September.
No, I'm always have to be back. So, like I said, if you guys can just spread the words on our HealLA limited edition lyric t-shirts, it's on our Instagram page, all social media pages. That would be super, super, super helpful. And the last thing is I think by everything's happening mid-September, but our HealLA website will be officially live.
Oh, great.
Wow. Great.
Yeah. That's good to know.
A lot of people are like, where do we go, you know, besides social media? But I'm excited to launch this website because it has a little bit of course, Michael in it, but, you know, it has our Prince and I's own touch of all the information that you guys want to learn about our events or future programming. So it's going to be all there for you guys.
We will definitely promote you. Definitely.
And I made a donation, so I'm looking forward to getting my T-shirt so I can wear it proudly.
Oh,
so.
nice. I've been emailing everyone, but when we sell the 160, I'll email everyone just to confirm their address. And Prince is more than happy to do I'm glad you brought that up, Melanie. Prince is more than happy to write a special message on the shirt too. So it's just not his signature. So if you guys want to have something that wants to be added, I'll be sure to reach out to everyone that bought a shirt just to know, just to get their what they want on the shirt.
Wonderful.
Very, very good.
Well, John, we want to thank you for being with us today. You have such amazing things going on, so we're definitely going to have you back. And
thank you.
Buzz, did you want to add something?
No, that's it. Just when we upload this to our YouTube, I will make sure I put in all the links to your social media and your fundraiser and everything. It will be in the drop down box, just so you know. We'll be promoting it on the video as well.
Perfect. If you don't mind me asking, when's the next one? I'll be happy to join.
Well, we haven't scheduled the next one yet.
But it'll be September 25th, right, Buzz? We do it on the 25th of the month.
Yeah, we normally do it every 25th of the month. So
okay, gotcha.
I don't know if you'd have your updates by then, but keep us posted.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely have a lot of updates by then. So yeah, if you guys allow me to come on, I'll be more than happy to.
Most definitely. Well, thanks. We have another guest coming up. You're welcome to hang out. It is the author of a new book, The Story of History. His name is Pez Jax. I believe he just entered. So John, if you want to hang out, that's fine. And listen to okay.
Go mute.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, Pez, are you there? I think you are.
I am. I'm here.
There you go. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to give you an introduction, and I wanted to make sure I get it all in, so I wrote it down. So
okay, well, you know me, so it better be good.
Yes. Yes. All right. Pez Jax is an amazing writer who has written several books about the King of Pop. His first book, Off the Wall from the Beginning, Brick by Brick, in 2006, which charted Michael Jackson's rise as from the lead singer of the Jackson 5 up to the release of Off the Wall. His latest effort is called The Story of History. I have it here. And I truly appreciate you, Pez, because more than being a fan, you've become a fierce advocate for Michael. And you've shown up on BBC and Good Morning Britain. And I think it's important that we get the word out about who this man really was. And certainly you've done that, especially through his music. So welcome and thank you.
Thank you. That was quite the introduction.
I told you. I wrote it down just because I wanted to say. So tell us about the book. I want to show the book again. And at the end, we'll explain how people can get the book. But why did you write the book?
So originally, I was planning just to write an article about the 25th anniversary of history. So as you mentioned in that kind introduction, I wrote a couple of articles online in the height of everything that happened last year. Sorry, that's gone off.
That's right.
I wrote a couple of articles in light of everything that happened last year. And as a result, I was invited to appear on Sky News to talk about should we mute Michael was the subject.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really a camera person and I don't really like to do that sort of thing, but I kind of was convinced to do it and went on and spoke about it. And when I came out of that interview, I was kind of really frustrated with how they were talking about, oh, you know, we should mute his music, but they were talking about Billie Jean and Thriller and Beat It and Smooth Criminal, all those sort of songs. When actually in that catalogue is all the songs like Scream, Money, This Time Around, DS, Tabloid Junkie, which in my opinion is Michael's voice. So I came out of there and I thought, okay, well, you know, what can I do to kind of reset this? So I thought, oh, I'll write an article for the 25th anniversary. And just sort of working with people that Michael knew and Michael's friends and colleagues, it just sort of evolved. And eventually I was like, okay, this looks like it's going to be a book. And so it just kind of grew from there, really.
Were there any surprises you found when you started to research for the book and just writing it in general? Things that surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, a hell of a lot. I always kind of had this opinion that when a song said, you know, written and composed by Michael Jackson, that he kind of went off into a corner and squirreled away writing lyrics and then played it on the piano and then came back and was like, here's the song. But that really wasn't how it happened. A lot of the time, Michael would come with the idea or come with the lyrics or come with, you know, a groove idea. And it was really a kind of a collaborative effort to bring everything together. And there's that famous African proverb, you know, it takes a village to
Yes.
raise a child. And I found, you know, just with the whole History album and project, it really did take a village to make this album happen. So yeah, just kind of really finding out about the way in which he constructed a song. Take, for example, you know, DS. Michael brought DS to the table as TS. And when he first brought it to the studio, none of the engineers wanted to touch it. They said, you know, we're not getting involved in this. We can see where you're going with this. This is going to be a problem. So Michael said, look, you know, it's my album, and I want to do this song. So they worked on TS, and Bruce Swedien actually took Michael to one side one day and said, look, if you put this on the record, these are the problems you're going to encounter. This is the lawsuits you could receive. You're going to upset this ugly old guy, you know, that sits in there in Santa Barbara. And Michael said to Bruce, you know, no, I want this on the album. So they carried on working on it. And then sort of a few weeks later, some lawyers from Sony came down and said, if you put this on the album, these are the problems you could encounter. And Michael again said, look, I'm putting it on there. It's going in. So, you know, eventually he compromised and said, we'll call it DS. They put the lyrics in the booklet to kind of make a pointed note that he wasn't saying Tom Sneddon, when you can clearly hear he is. Yes. But I think, you know, what transpires from that story is really Michael's resolve to say, I want to have my say, and I'm not going to be silenced by anybody. And I think, you know, that's one of the things I love about history so much, that he refuses to be silenced on all these different topics. And as a result, it did kind of, you know, affect his standing in the industry and in the media, and, you know, and I think I'm glad that he just said, I don't care, I'm going with it anyway.
Now, how willing were Michael's employees, the collaborators, willing to talk to you for the research for the book?
It's a mix. So, you know, a lot of them I've been talking to for years anyway, through the various other projects I've done, and just sort of stayed in touch. I always send everybody a Christmas card. So, you know, some I just picked up the phone and said, hey, can we talk about history? Some I reached out to and never heard back. One came forward promising loads of great information, and then when I received it, I was like, great, what's this? So, you know, it was nothing to write home about. But, you know, I mean, ultimately there were kind of really four people that were instrumental in telling me a lot about their position in history. That was Dan Beck, who handled all the marketing for the album, Diana Walzak, who made the statue for the cover, Rob Hoffman, who was a studio engineer, and Stephen Wissett, who was a photographer. So together, those four kind of worked with me a lot over the 9-month period, and took my phone calls in the middle of the night when I was like, what does this mean? You know, so, but everybody, you know, I think what's funny when you speak to a lot of, you know, obviously within Michael's previous collaborators, you have a lot of people that are happy to always do Michael things, and you'll see them pop up everywhere. Whereas you get a lot of others that haven't been asked about Michael for decades. And then when you sort of dig them out and contact them, and they're like, oh, yeah, I'll talk about Michael. You know, and then suddenly all these stories come flooding back, and all these memories. And I think, you know, part of doing the book and just the projects we do in general, it's really important to just get those stories out there. Because these people are the gatekeepers to all the parts that make up who Michael was and the real Michael Jackson. So, you know, it's really important that we keep knocking on those doors and getting those people involved.
Absolutely, absolutely. We all know Michael was a perfectionist. Can you talk about the creative process in creating history?
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, often, as I mentioned before, sometimes a song would just start with Michael coming with a lyric idea or a groove idea, and it would manifest from there. And so a lot of the sessions were just sort of working on that and building that. And Michael would send the engineers off and say, I want you to find me sounds that haven't been heard before. And they would do things like, you know, the music box in Little Susie. They took 2 music boxes and dissected them and then programmed them into a machine so they could create the sound they wanted. With the guitar for DS, which Michael credits himself for playing, is actually him at a keyboard pressing notes. You know, he knew the sound he wanted, so he just pressed the notes. So that, you know, it was often a case of just building everything up, layers upon layers upon layers. And as Dan Beck shared with me, you know, Sony would often go down to the studio and be like, is it ready yet? Michael would be like, no, you know, not yet. I've got more ideas. And that was kind of the process behind History. It manifested from being just a greatest hits with a couple of extra songs to being this 2-disc massive package with a big thick book inside. So what happened originally was Michael was meant to deliver the greatest hits sort of, you know, summer of '94. So if you look at some of the earlier History t-shirts, you'll see it says 1994 on them. The album never happened. And so Sony promised all the shops in the US, look, it's going to come for Christmas '94. Promise you'll have a Michael Jackson album. Don't spend your money on other artists. Wait for Michael. So of course they all held their money back and Michael didn't deliver. And when you actually look at the timeline, Michael was barely into the recording process by the end of '94. You know, he hadn't finished Scream. There were a lot of other songs that hadn't come about. So, you know, they sort of said, how are we going to get all these retailers on side to back the album when it comes out? Let's send him to NAMM. So NAMM, not Vietnam, of course. NAMM is a convention that's held in the US every year, and all the retailers, music retailers, go to this convention and they work with the record companies to buy in stock. So, for example, there'd be a rep from Sony that would say, you know, I've got a new Michael Jackson album coming out. How many do you want to buy in advance? Obviously, they'd done that for the Christmas market and Michael hadn't delivered. So, you know, confidence was at an all-time low. So they said, how are we going to get Michael there? Michael doesn't go to these things. So they're like, let's just give him an award. Think of an award we can give him. He loves getting awards. You know, he'll turn up to anything for an award. So they sort of went off and came up with this humanitarian award that I think had been given once or twice before, and they dusted it off and was like, let's give him that. So of course, you know, pick up the phone. Michael, you've won an award. Great. What is it? Humanitarian. I'll be there. So, of course, he went and he stood in front of, you know, 2,000 retailers, and they gave him a standing ovation and applauded him. And everybody bought into History. And he said to the audience at the time, you know, it's thanks to all of you that we made successes with Thriller and Bad and Dangerous and Off the Wall. We can do it again for History. So, you know, sort of going back to your original question, because I have this habit to just go right off.
But you're doing just fine. Don't worry.
You know, the creative process was just, I think there were just so many elements in it. Even from early on, Michael knew he wanted Smile to be a single, and actually went off and shot some footage of himself dressed as Charlie Chaplin and had it superimposed into a Charlie Chaplin film. And he was showing people during the recording of History, look at what I've shot. And obviously it didn't happen because the Chaplin estate said no. But I think, yeah, just, you know, the kind of extent to which he would keep going and going and going and going at a project until somebody had to say enough. Because, you know, he is perfectionist to the ultimate level.
Right.
And we need an album. Yeah.
Exactly.
I want to ask you about the History statue,
Yes.
Which has now become iconic. Where did the ideas for the statue come from, and how did that develop?
So there's a couple of different sort of points as to where this could link back to. I mean, there's an undated note that Michael once wrote. His idea, he said he wanted a statue like Mount Rushmore, and he drew this really kind of blobby shaped figure, which I assume was meant to be him as a statue, and just said, you know, I want a statue, I want to define myself, I want tourists around the bottom looking up at MJ, taking photos of MJ, you know. And he'd kind of said that to a friend many years prior, and there's a documentation of that. But the idea really came from just, he was trying to think of a way in which he could immortalize himself. And when the album was first started, it was just the greatest hits. So it made sense to say, well, how do we encompass this incredible career into one package, and what does that look like? And of course, it had to be a statue. So, I mean, for me personally, I think the pose is perfect because it shows that moment where what you don't do is more important sometimes than what you do. And Michael stood on stage for a minute, not moving, or a minute, and someone's going to correct me on it, a minute and 34 seconds or whatever it was. And in that moment, people lost their mind, and he didn't do anything. He stood there.
Yeah.
And I think that is the ultimate testament to him, and made perfect sense to turn that into a statue. So, you know, there was sort of a long process of getting the statue to happen. Originally, they were talking about, you know, let's create something digitally, but Michael had a habit of going back to the people who made the covers and saying, let's redo it, let's redo it, let's redo it. And they were like, if we do a photo, these people are just going to go nuts doing the editing. There's a great story, obviously not in this book, but the black armband on the cover of Blood on the Dance Floor was painted in the back of a FedEx van because Michael phoned the painter as the artwork was being delivered to be printed and said, wait, I want a black band on the arm. The guy's in the back of a FedEx van painting this band on. So, you know, he had this habit of doing this. So they said, if we make a statue, we can render it into 3D. And then if Michael wants to change the pose or change the face or change the body, we can just move it digitally.
Right.
And it really was kind of world class at its time. So they did this. And it was meant to be sort of 7 weeks. And it ended up going on for about 6 months, the entire process.
Right.
But no, I think, you know, Diana Walzak, who created the statue, worked with Michael closely on it. And I think the results are just perfect. Michael was very specific about wanting a white marble, which the album cover actually is. Most people think it's a grey statue, and it isn't. If you look at it very closely, especially under the, I haven't got one to hand, but if you look especially under the arm, you'll see it's white. It's not actually grey. Yeah. It's the way it's lit. It makes it look sort of grey. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was ultimately how it came about. And I think there's 3 of the originals in existence. Diana has one. I think the estate had one, and there's another one somewhere else.
I think it's in China.
Yeah. I think they've copied the original from, you know, they've spoken with Diana, and I think they've made one similar.
Can you talk about some of the misconceptions about the History album? Because it was quite controversial in its time, and people have different impressions about the album. What did you find? Yeah,
I mean, I think there was a lot of misconception now about it not selling very well, and that's just nonsense. You know, when you look at the sales figures, it did sell well. I think people have this idea with Michael to benchmark all of his sales against Thriller. And that's really unfair, not just for Michael, but for every artist, because Thriller is Thriller. I don't even think Michael, you know, everybody hopes to achieve that, but I don't even think Michael thought it was going to be as big as it was. So to try and benchmark anything against Thriller is just, it kind of doesn't make sense to me. So when Michael brought History out, there was a lot of idea that, oh, well, it doesn't sell as much as Thriller, so it's not as good, which, as I say, you know, it's just nonsense. It actually sold more than Dangerous in its first week. But I think the kind of misconceptions around it were just that Michael was relying on the greatest hits to sell the product, which again wasn't true. One of my early drafts of the book, Michael actually said he didn't want a greatest hits, and I had a big quote about that. But he was kind of convinced that, you know, let's pair it together and make it a big thing. But also just this idea that he just was complaining and whining. And one of the ideas I explored in the book is about this tired notion that when a black man or a black woman is frustrated, they're perceived as an angry black man or an angry black woman.
Exactly.
And, you know, the media are great at just kind of writing black people off as being angry and, you know, mean and vicious. And that came across in a lot of the criticism from the critics with History, saying, oh, he's just angry. He's angry all the time. And in the book, I've compared it to a review of an Eminem album that came out a couple of years later. And, you know, they sort of made justification for the fact why Eminem is angry. But when Michael's angry, he apparently doesn't have a reason to be. You know, he shouldn't be.
Right.
So I found that really interesting. But also, I think one of the greatest misconceptions is that people believed that there wasn't an undertone of racism in the reviews that came out of the album. And when you read them today, you can really see it. You can see the racism that exists within these reviews and just how they're approaching it. And I think looking at that with fresh eyes, I had to take a couple of weeks off researching for the book because I just thought, God, this is draining for me to be reading all this negativity again and again and again. So I can only imagine how Michael felt when the album came out.
Yeah. You know, I think the album is, the album is probably the most autobiographical of Michael's works. Do you think because of that, it was misunderstood, especially with the critics, that they didn't get it at the time?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think there was a kind of element with a lot of it as to the critics felt, well, why now? You know, why do you want to talk about your childhood now? Why do you want to refer to yourself as the us and they don't care about us now? You know, is it because you've had this situation happen in your life and you now want to kind of play on this side? And I don't really think that's fair. You know, Michael is part of a very small group of artists who take that risk and say, I'm going to talk about a subject matter that isn't comfortable to listen to. It's not commercially friendly, but I'm going to do it anyway. And there's, you know, seldom I know, and I apologize for this in advance, but I know a lot of people like to compare Michael to Beyoncé, and we all have our opinions on that. But you know, I'd like to see her take on some of the risks with his lyrics and his music that, you know, she hasn't taken on those same risks that he did. When you listen to, you know, Michael said, I'm going to write a song about the earth. You know, you're screwing up the earth and I'm going to tell everybody about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he didn't care that it didn't sell because he wanted to put that message out. Thankfully, it did sell, but he wasn't concerned about that. You know, he wrote a song about a district attorney and said everything under the sun about him, and he didn't care because he had to have his say. And I think that's really important when you look at the album in that context, that it really is his voice. You know, there's a better title for it. It's almost his voice versus his story. And it's interesting when you look at a lot of the reviews, they were commenting on his lyrical choices and saying, well, you know, why is he saying this? Why is he doing that? Why can't he just make joyous pop songs? And one of the reviews says, like Beat It and Want to Be Starting Something, which I find hilarious because those two songs are not joyous pop songs if you listen to the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same as Billie Jean, and I've said this in a previous interview. I never find so much joy as watching people dancing at a wedding or at a party or in a club to Billie Jean, grabbing their crotch, singing along, throwing their hands in the air. But you stop and listen to the lyrics and it's actually quite harrowing. Yeah. So when everybody's screaming and whooping, and then you're actually like, well, this song is about a paternity, and, you know, this woman was stalking him and she sent him a gun in the post and all this sort of stuff. And people see it as a joyous pop song, which it's funny to watch. So I think, you know, sort of coming full circle, they suddenly took notice of the lyrics to have a stab at him when in the past he'd been talking about very much similar things.
Exactly. Well, I want to talk about the book again, about what you expected the reader to come away with from reading the book.
I think, you know, there are things in the book that people will have heard before. Hopefully there are stories that they won't. I think the idea was just to kind of bring the process of the album and the singles and the videos into one book. You know, like Joe Vogel did a fantastic job with Man in the Music, and there's been various other books that have really kind of covered the music since his past. But I just wanted to focus on this one album. And I hope that people go through the journey that I went through writing it. You know, they laugh when it's funny, and they feel enraged when there's a reason to be enraged, and they feel sad when there are, you know, sad moments in there. And also hope. You know, I think the whole thing ends with hope, that he really decided at that point in his career to continue. And I think that's what's really important, that after everything that happened to him, he plowed that into the music, he plowed that into the art, he plowed that into the videos, and just made an incredible body of work for that period.
You sure did. Where can people get the book? How can we get it?
It's available on 1611.com, which ships worldwide, and it's also available on Amazon in some countries. I can't tell you which ones.
I got mine from Amazon, so.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. So it must be in the US.
It's in the US. All right, Pez, I really want to thank you, especially for writing the book and just going into Michael's history, so to speak, was enlightening for me, because there are things, you know, I think that I know everything there is about Michael, and you taught me some new things. So I want to thank you for that. And I also want to thank you for being a tremendous advocate for Michael. And I want you to keep up your voice and keep speaking out. And we'll keep retweeting you on Twitter and following you.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little bit uncensored, but I think in light of the situation we found ourselves in, I don't think any of us thought a couple of years ago that we'd be here again.
Yeah.
And we have to. There are certain people that should be speaking out and that aren't. There are certain things that should be happening and aren't. And in without Michael being here, we are his voice. We are an extension of him.
Exactly.
And I think obviously in a different context, but he said it starts with us or it'll never be done.
Exactly.
And so I always try to use that ethos with everything I do, that we have to do it. We have to be that person.
Wonderful. Well, keep up the good work. My next visit to London, we'll go out to dinner again because we had an amazing dinner.
Last time, that was terrible.
We'll pick a new place. All right. Thank you, Pez, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We usually do these on the 25th of every month, so we'll announce soon who our next speaker will be, and John Muto will definitely be one of them. And I want to thank Buzz. Buzz, do you want to add anything before we hang up?
No, that was really wonderful. I really enjoyed this session. Hopefully we'll be able to upload it soon and everybody else can enjoy it who hasn't come today.
Okay. All right, wonderful.
Much love and light to everybody who joined, and peace.
And see us next on the 25th. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.